I guess in closing, because I'm done already, I should say, yeah, my wife is rather trouble. We also help put up the Christmas lights. It's cold out there. The city. So we're out there in Williamstown. But still, the city of Mayville is our city, too. Somehow something ain't going right here yet. So, but in closing, I'm just going to say that I heard a lot more fairy tales than I ever thought existed here tonight. I think it's going to be tough to separate this all out, but I'm hoping we can do it the right way. And I still think it's a very good proposal that the Village of Williamstown comes into existence.
Thank you. William Lee?
Well, it's Gary here and me dragging out the old guys. So I just would like to let everyone know that my name is William J. Lee, but I go by Bill. Nobody knows me by the other one. I am going to read my comments because, as you know, when I start speaking, if I don't have it written down, it's going to get longer and longer and longer. So, excuse me while I read off my comments. I've lived at my current address in Williamstown for over 40 years. I love the country living between Horicon and Mayville. It's terrific. I live in the town of Williamstown. I have a Horicon mailing address. I worked in Horicon at John Deere. My kids went to school and graduated from Mayville High School. We have a Mayville phone, a Williamstown fire number. We shop mostly in Mayville. I mean, we're all mixed up. Now, jokingly, a lot of you know what I refer to my area as, and I'm the mayor out there. But so what? I'm going to give you just a bit of history on this. The Fosters and Mays came to the area in 1845. It's 173 years ago. They were looking for a site that had adequate water cover. That's the old Rock River. A dam was built at the location of Mayville's Upper Dam. A sawmill was soon constructed. A grist mill was under construction. Iron ore was discovered south of town at Iron Ridge, which today is Nita. That's because it needed a lot of help when everybody left. In 1845, Chester May and Alvin and William Foster purchased land from the land office in Green Bay. And that was the beginning of the town of Williamstown. And it was first opened to settlers by Alvin, William Foster, and Chester Mays in May of 1845. In 1846, the town of Williamstown was among 17 towns in Dodge County established by the territorial legislature. Both Williamstown and Mayville got their beginnings before this was a state. And you all remember what year we were founded as a state, right? 1848. Williamstown was named after William Foster. Mayville was named after Chester May. Williamstown and Mayville have been joined at the hip from the beginning of both entities' founding. Foster Park in downtown Mayville is named after the same family that Williamstown is named after. So why 173 years later is there what I sense is so much animosity between the two partners in history? What's happened? Here are my thoughts, or my take on the matter. The family farm has mostly disappeared. I grew up in one of those in Illinois. Larger farms and fewer of them have taken their place. Mayville has grown slowly over its 173 years since the Fosters and the Mays arrived. The town of Williamstown has become an attractive place for folks to build new homes. They will build out there. They will come. Mayville has successfully transitioned from an iron-making town to a community of manufacturing, offering nearly 3,000 jobs. Today, those companies are facing severe shortages of labor. Mayville must be allowed to expand to accommodate job growth. People living in Williamstown live, work, and play in Mayville. Mayville is a source of good schools, shopping, parks, recreation, and work for the citizens of our greater community. A strong, vibrant Mayville is good for not only Mayville, but for the residents of Williamstown. I hope my perception is wrong, but it seems to me the drive is to stop or hinder the ability of Mayville to grow. If that is the case, I stand with Mayville. My good friend and neighbor is Irvin Butzlaff, is with me in this case as well. Why would the largest landowner in Williamstown be against restrictions to Mayville's growth? Well, because as a landowner, he wants the right to sell his land next to the city if he wants to. As far as changing the name, incorporating Kekoskee into one, I really don't care. But, there's always a but. If it's for restricting the growth of Mayville, I'm dead set against the move. And as I'd heard the comment about as for representation, there is an extraterritorial zoning committee that does represent us outside the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Rob Strader?
Thank you. Russell Schrader, I'm going to read mine also. A little background, I'm a resident of the town of Williamstown, and I'm for the formation of the Village of Williamstown. And I want to mention that I did serve on the town board in the town of Williamstown, and I know the sacrifice that people are making that are on the current town board. The honesty and dedication and the time they're putting into this is pretty amazing. And I want to say also that Mayville is a wonderful city. I have many friends there. I have friends at Miller, at Tab. I have friends at the golf course. I'm on the golf team out there. And that's why it was so surprising to me that to learn that Mayville's trying to hold Williamstown and the people of Kekoskee hostage via terms of essential services. Using fire protection and sewer and water as a tool to discourage or delay us from becoming a village. So I just don't think that's right. During my 10 years, I served from 2000 to 2010 on the Town of Williamstown Town Board. We were always willing to sit down with the City of Mayville to discuss boundary issues. But the City of Mayville really didn't want to talk to us, and I can't blame them. They didn't have to. They had all the authority. The law was on their side. Now with the town of Williamstown and the good people of Kekoskee about to become the Village of Williamstown, we will finally be on equal footing. So we both can come to the table and negotiate in good faith. I have total confidence in our leadership in the town of Williamstown and Kekoskee. They will make decisions based on what makes sense. If it makes sense for the city of Mayville to expand in a certain area, we are not there to oppose it. But for once we could sit down at the table and discuss the pros and cons and decide what's best for both of us. We will have an equal voice at the table. And as far as some people are saying that we're trying to stop Mayville from growing, that's totally not true. And I'm sure if we sat down at the table and we couldn't come to agreement, I'm sure that there's laws about arbitration and deciding what's right. Again, I'm not an attorney on that, but I'm sure that those decisions can be made. There's a time for discussion, and there's a time for negotiation. But here today, it's a time to let Williamstown, and the good people of Kekoskee, stand on its own 2 feet and become the Village of Williamstown. Thank you.
Jack Dubats. Can you also spell your name for this one?
I think we're going in and out with the microphone, so I will try to talk as long as I can. I'm Jack Dobratz, along with my wife Kathy. We live on Greenhead Road, just in the town of Williamstown, just outside the city of Mayville. Our property and my father-in-law's property are bordered on several sides by the city. We've been watching the development of the proposed Village of Williamstown with interest. The recent legal ad that appeared in the Dodge County Pioneer that listed making border agreements made us feel that we should appear before decisions are made. We appreciate the work of the current town board to preserve our rights as landowners in the country with respect to our location near the city. As town members in the extraterritorial zone, it is our understanding that we would not have much say should the city decide they would need our land for future expansion under the current situation. We appreciate the luxury of both worlds. We definitely do take in the conveniences of being close to the city as well as the atmosphere and space of country living. From what we understand, the current town board and Village of Kekoskee are working towards protecting our rights and creating a working agreement with the city. We applaud that. We do not want to become annexed by the city of Mayville. My father-in-law sold some land to the city for the tag center to be built on, and it was annexed. That annexation created a small wedge of land that is difficult to access from the rest of the farm and maybe could have been negotiated better with equal input by the city and the township. Our future plans include retaining our country-like setting for the rest of the property at this time. In the future, if we should change our minds and wish to be annexed or the city would then want to expand, we'd be thankful to have two equal representative entities to make mutually beneficial agreements with. We do not feel that the city of Mayville would be cut off by the creation of Village of Williamstown, but that it would give equal voice to the residents in each of the municipalities. Thank you.
Joe Holman.
Last name spelled H-O-H-M-A. A resident of Mayville. I didn't grow up in Mayville. I grew up in Mesa, Arizona. I always find it interesting how municipalities have different disagreements. I spoke before, and I look at this from two different perspectives. I'm on the school board, but I'm not really going to talk about too much of that perspective. I'm talking from a resident of Mayville, and I had a conversation with my son, and I had to get a piece of paper and put Mayville in the center and say, hey, Williamstown is getting ready to surround Mayville. This is going to affect you. They asked how? Well, because in order to grow in Mayville, we all pay property taxes. Even if you're renting, you're paying some type of tax. Because you're paying it to the landowner who in turn is paying that tax. Taxes, if there's no way to alleviate and grow, those taxes keep going up and up and up. In essence, your city dies. Who is going to want to come to move to Mayville if you have no chance to alleviate? It's basic economics 101. Alleviating the property tax. But there's a bigger issue. School District of Mayville just passed a $24.5 million referendum that I would challenge that most people in Williamstown, they don't see that too much. This is about money. The reason why this is about money is the dump. It's my opinion that this has everything to do with the dump. Number one, when I look at the dump, I look at it as the smelly, most disgusting place I have ever driven past in my entire lifetime, and I do it every day. And my house is in an area that I can't open my windows because that smell is so bad. Williamstown wants to expand the dump. They want to go up to 80 to 90 feet high, is my understanding. They also want to add acreage to that dump. Well, what this is about is money, because if you really think about it, the only thing you're doing is just adding more money to Williamstown.
That's all you're doing. No one wants to say, and I think some people hit it to it, but I think just saying it bluntly, I think it's mostly about money. But most people are too scared to maybe say those types of things. Now, I also told my son if I sat in the shoes of Williamstown, I'd be doing everything I could to keep Mayville from expanding. But why? Because I'd be pocketing more money. But is that looking out for the higher good of a society all here? We got to take a look. My son in a school district, is his opportunities going to be less? Because we all know, due to demographics changes, our full-time enrollment is going down. It used to be 80 first graders. We're now sitting about 56 first graders entering school. Yes, of course there's demographic changes, but Mayville has the mindset of growth. The city of Mayville wants more kids in our school that we just passed a referendum on, which was growth. And what are we doing? Do we really care whatsoever about any of these kids or these real issues? Or are we going to care about just pocketing money because of a dump? Now, I got the city of Mayville. I think the city of Mayville, if I really look at it from that perspective, the whole idea would be to annex the dump. Get rid of it. You know why? It stinks. It's going to affect this health. It's right next to a rock river. There is a lot of things, I think, and just from opinions of different folks, if you do that, it affects health. There's cancerous issues with it. There's leukemia issues with it. And if you extend it, and a lot of people will, I believe, won't say the real truth. I think that's a lot of what this is about. And it's, again, my opinion. And I believe the dump, no matter how much you put liners in, they're going to fail. At some point, whether it be 20 years, 30 years, City of Mayville has gotten rid of their liability. And they got rid of their liability by negotiating different deals and things like that with Williamstown. No one wants to tell, I think, the real truth of what this is about. And again, this is my opinion. But the only thing this is doing is making it so kids, you have no opportunity to bring families in. What are we going to do next? Is Williamstown planning on expanding the dump? How is that going to help Mayville, the whole community? Are we just going to be the next dying town? And when I'm explaining this to my son earlier, a whole place surrounding a city. And we hear different folks talking about, well, it's happened in other places. Well, it has happened in other places. In Illinois, it's killed towns. Where those types of things happen. So that's something else to think about. EMS services. God bless all our EMS folks out there. They do great things. 2, I understand from the city of Mayville perspective, how do you try to stop something that can, and you got to, I take a look at both sides here, that can actually hinder the city of Mayville from continuing to grow, to sustain itself, sustain a taxable base, to not have blight start coming in because of all these different things. I mean, there's so many different factors, but how do you potentially try to strategically plan to stop that from happening? Well, you sit there and you say, create a resolution. Hey, Williamstown, you're on your own. And then from there, can they do that? That's the question. It's all about strategy. And I mean, you guys sit probably at a whole bunch of these different things that have sat before Adam. Probably get bored to death. But I think a lot of this has to do with what are we doing? This is the most ridiculous, preposterous, dumbfounding thing I've ever seen happen. Been all over this world. And 2 communities can't come together. Well, I tried to talk to Williamstown before when I was an alderman. Didn't go very far. Me and Bob Rediker, which was the former mayor, came down and just didn't go anywhere. I think some of that had to do with my schedule, his schedule, Williamstown schedules, because when you're on town councils and boards, we forget a lot of us got jobs. Trying to connect, trying to get together is tough because of other extenuating circumstances. But Mayville has done a lot to try to connect with Williamstown. Heard it from the lawyer. And I think that number one, if I was sitting on this, you have to take a look. What are we going to do? What is going to happen to Mayville? And what is this really about? It's about protection of the dump. $600,000 so you don't have to pay that much taxes. Man, that's a cushy deal. I should have moved to Williamstown instead of Mayville. I really should have. Because if I would have known that when I first came to this community, and I was in the Army all around the place, and then I decided to retire in Mayville. And I retired in Mayville because I could get more house, have a good, semi-good school system, and I think it's now one of the best. And I think we're even going to improve even more. We've got an opportunity right now, I think, for you guys to do what I think is right. Because the right thing to do is to allow Mayville to grow. What court, what person would want to stop Mayville from growing? I don't get it. Why would you want to stop that? It doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't you want to grow more housing? We all know we're having demographic issues in the nation. We've got a backwards tree going on to where we're not having enough kids right now in this nation. Well, we're affected by that. We all know that. But what we can do is attract more families here. So I think, please, when you're looking at this, I think you guys should look at it from an aspect of what's going to end up happening to Mayville and what types of things is this going to impact. But I think that when you sit back and you start making these decisions and you start putting this forward, you take a look at all that legal mumbo jumbo is great. But take a look at it from a humanistic standpoint. And a lot of this is just boiling down to homogeneity. It's Mayville, it's Williamstown, it's this. We really are all interconnected here in this whole community area. And I take a look at our services. We subsidize, my tax dollars go to subsidize Williamstown, whether you realize it or not, that they pay hardly anything because they got the dump. Well, of course there's a fight for annexation of the dump. I think that's what it's about. But why would the city of Mayville want to annex the dump? Stop it from expanding, stop it from doing all these different things. That's all I got.
Thank you. Randy Clark?
Good evening. My name is Randy Clark, founder of RCI Engineering of Mayville. I'm here today to offer some thoughts regarding the changes to the structure of Williamstown and their impact to the city of Mayville. I find myself in a tough situation this evening. Many of the people that have spoken here tonight are friends around the community. Some of the people here have had dramatic impacts on the dairy industry globally. Some have been guidance people for me in my youth in 4-H programs. These are people that I visit with whenever I go to different events, and they participate in things in Mayville and may not even live inside the city of Mayville. My wife Wendy and I own 2 properties that are adjacent to Williamstown, and we own RCI Engineering in the River Knoll Industrial Park. RCI is a manufacturer of agricultural equipment and provider of engineering services to other manufacturers. My interest here today is in seeing Mayville grow and improving the relationship between Mayville and Williamstown. These 2 communities have had a relationship of give and take, support and struggle, pain and gain. We are at yet another crossroad in our history, and perhaps the most important fork in the road for the future of a large portion of Dodge County in terms of land mass and economic output. For years, Williamstown has kept a focus on production agriculture and limitation on growth. I can certainly respect this, as agriculture is a larger part of our economy than the average citizen would ever imagine. However, there is another viewpoint that has been shared with me by some citizens of Williamstown. That is, by having a few key businesses in Williamstown paying a large share